Hola a todos! Ahead of your GCSE writing exam, I'm going to go through some grade 9 phrases which you should be using in the writing exam. In the writing paper for both AQA and Edexcel, you have a 90-word question, a 150-word question, and an English to Spanish translation. For the first two questions, your marks go for the content and range of language, so using different tenses and complex language will boost your marks significantly. I recommend you watch this video, learn all of the phrases, and then simply use all of the phrases at least once in the writing paper. So the first phrase I'm going to go through is para decir la verdad or para ser honesto. Both of these mean to say the truth or to be honest. An example of this is para ser honesto no me gusta hacer deportes dado que soy perezoso. Next up, we have cuando sea mayor, which means when I am older. An example of this in a sentence is cuando sea mayor me gustaría participar en un maratón. This phrase uses the present subjunctive tense with the word sea, which just means I am. The third phrase I'm going to teach you is lo que más me gusta es que, which means what I like the most is that. An example of this is lo que más me gusta es que el comedor es grande. This phrase is great for describing things in your school or in your region, perhaps. The next phrase is hoy en día, which means nowadays, and is a great alternative to saying ahora. The fifth phrase is sin una sombra de duda, which means without a shadow of doubt. For example, sin una sombra de duda, comer verduras es saludable. Eating vegetables is healthy. Next up, si fuera el primer ministro means if I was the prime minister. This is the use of the imperfect subjunctive with the word fuera. An example of this is si fuera el primer ministro, me encantaría ayudar a los sin techo. I would love to help the homeless. Our next phrase is a pesar de esto, which means in spite of this. This phrase can be used to give a contrasting opinion to something you have already mentioned. The eighth phrase is vale agregar que, which means it is worth adding that. It is a synonym to something like también. An example of this in a sentence is vale agregar que mi hermano me molesta muchísimo. My brother annoys me a lot. Next up, we have siempre me ha gustado, which means I have always liked. This phrase is always followed by an infinitive. An example of this is siempre me ha gustado nadar en el mar, which means I have always liked swimming in the ocean. Moving upwards now, que yo sepa means as far as I know. An example is que yo sepa no hacemos nada en mi escuela para proteger el medio ambiente. So as far as I know, we don't do anything in my school to protect the environment. Next, a mi modo de ver, which just means in my opinion, and same way you would say en mi opinión. For example, a mi modo de ver, tener una familia grande tiene demasiadas desventajas. In my opinion, having a large family has loads of disadvantages. Next, si tuviera más tiempo o dinero, if I had more money or time. This is again the use of the imperfect subjunctive with the word tuviera, meaning I had. This phrase can be followed by the conditional tense. For example, si tuviera más dinero, compraría una casa más grande. If I had more money, I would buy a bigger house. This phrase is one I really like, porque necesito un descanso, because I need a rest. It's good to use as a justification for why you want to do certain things. For example, go on holiday. Yo y mi familia vamos a ir a Grecia porque necesitamos un descanso. So me and my family, we are going to go to Greece because we need a rest. Next up, en otras palabras, meaning in other words. An example of this is en otras palabras, trabajar como profesor es muy difícil. This one is great to use at the end of a paragraph to conclude it. Another really good phrase, de hecho, means in fact. It can be used como de hecho, beber 8 litros de agua cada día no es suficiente. In fact, drinking 8 liters of water every day is not sufficient. Last but not least, tengo la intención de o tengo ganas de means I have the intention of. It has to be followed by the infinitive and is used to refer to the future. For example, tengo la intención de aprobar todos mis exámenes. I have the intention of passing all of my exams. That is 16 amazing phrases to use in your Spanish writing from now on. If you'd